Well, as we begin, we want to highlight a few people in the room. We have our county judge, Phil Crowley, back here. Phil, raise your hand. We have a city council member, Shane Price. Shane, thank you for coming. Another city council member. I know I saw Blaze Reagan around here somewhere, hiding behind the cameras back here. Thank you for coming. And I think we're pretty simple. I see a candidate for County Commissioner 4, Mike Hobbs, back here. Am I missing anybody else? All right, if you're a precinct chair for Taylor County Republican Party, would you stand up? We appreciate all they do. There's a lot of time and effort to get things like this going and just the day-to-day activities and all the work they're going to do for the election. So I appreciate everything they do, and I know you do as well. So thank you for giving them recognition. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to bring the candidates up. If the candidates will come up to the stage, we're going to draw numbers, see where you sit, and then y'all nervous? Y'all walking really slow. All right, on this card, I had different cards, but I realized you were able to see through them, so we switched them out. Okay. All right, we need to grab a card, and that'll tell you your seating number. Our seating number is going to be 1 sitting on the left over here. The crowd's facing all the way to 7 all the way on this end. So 2 is right here, Jason. I think that's your last one right there.
That is
right there, number 3. Yes, sir.
Try to be on my good behavior.
Oh, you can make it entertaining. All right, the way we're going to do this is we're going to start off and we're going to go with 1 starting off at the first question and work our way all the way down, and then work our way to 2 doing the next question, 3, so the same person doesn't answer the question every time at first, but we will go back, and then when we get to 7, if we make it that far with y'all, we'll come back down the aisle. Sound good? All right, each question is going to have 90 seconds, and so we have a flag down here, and so that's going to come in at what, 60 seconds? When are you going to put the yellow up? At 75 seconds, the yellow's going up. And then you got the red, of course. That seems pretty self-explanatory. Are y'all ready? All right, let's get going. All right. So our first one, we're going to start off with Matt here, and then we'll just allow y'all just keep on going down. Sound good? All right, 90 seconds.
Thank you.
Tell us why you're running for Congressional District 19.
Yeah, so my vision, it's really simple. It's time that we have revival in government and we heal our land. You know, Scripture talks about if my people are called by my name will humble themselves, they'll pray, they'll repent, they'll turn from their wicked ways. I'll hear from heaven and I'll heal their land. And so it's time we have leaders that will fear God, tell the truth, serve the people, not the insiders. My mission, expose corruption, secure the border, cut red tape, deliver results. Exposing corruption, I mean, that means let's look at all the stuff that we're seeing. I think that we're all sick of it. And it's time that we expose it and we don't allow that to continue. We have to secure the border, making sure that the law and order is actually followed, and we continue to support Trump in a lot of these things. Cutting the red tape. We've got to get the Washington creatures off of our back. If the people that produce, we can't allow the farmers, our energy people, the small businesses to be under the bureaucratic red tape that is hurting so many of us in this country. We have to deliver results. Run the office like an operator. You know, if we spend more than we make, we go out of business. As an individual, if we spend more than we make, we go bankrupt. A politician gets reelected, and that's sickening to me. We have to actually deliver the results, fast constituent service, measurable wins, real accountability. The core values, we've got to have there goes my time.
Whenever you're ready.
Folks, thank you all for being here tonight. My name is Jason Corley. I currently serve as Lubbock County Commissioner for Precinct 2. One of the things I wanted to point out to you guys, well, actually, I guess all of the things. The most important thing is, first and foremost, I am a Christian, I am a husband, I am a father. I've served as a small business owner. I've worked as a county commissioner in Lubbock County now for 8 years, and in that time, I can tell you something. There's a swamp locally. There's a swamp in Washington. There's one in Austin. Everywhere you go, you run into this. And what is that swamp exactly? It's bureaucracy. It's the same old bureaucracy. It's everywhere you go. So most of the problems that we've got today in our communities, they all come back to that bureaucracy and allowing it to run unchecked. You know, usually when you see an ABC agency, that's where you start to see one of the problems. We've got so many different agencies that we've left run unchecked, and those agencies have driven up the price of houses. They've driven up the input prices for farmers. They've driven up the costs of education, and everywhere you look, they're driving that price up, and they're making it harder to live here in the United States. We sit there and we pay these taxes every year, and we question, where did that money go? Where did they spend it? You know, which country did it go to? I got to turn on the news to find out. And then I'm sitting here in little old West Texas looking around, and we're like, oh, well, how come we can't fix that? Or how come we can't do that? Well, it's this many millions of dollars. Well, we just sent Ukraine $185 billion. We couldn't spend some of that at home? That's the question I want to ask when I get to Washington, D.C., and how do I get that money home to you? Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for being here. I'm Donald May. The primary reason I want to go to Washington and serve you is that we need people up there who understand what's going on.
Yeah, there you go. Put it close to your face.
I apologize. Is that better?
There you go.
Is that okay? It's
Yep.
directional. Good. I'm getting some feedback up here. We need people who understand what's going on. We've got an awful lot of problems going on. President Trump and his group are doing a great job, but we have to think down the road. 3 years from now, we're going to have a different president. We need to set standards. Donald May, I'm sorry, I apologize. It's Donald May. I apologize. Things that people are concerned with this area, artificial intelligence. We're going to become the center of the world. We're concerned about Sharia law. Not too far down the road, we had an incursion which has been stopped, but this is something that we need to be concerned about. My background is farming. I'm a sixth-generation farmer. My wife and I farm. We deal with input costs like you folks do. I am a retina surgeon by training. I deal with severe military and civilian trauma. I have a background in nuclear physics. I've been working with artificial intelligence for many years now. I plan to go to Washington. My goal is to stay up there for 10 years. We need term limits. We can't have people going up there and getting used to making money and getting power and fame.
Good evening. My name's James Bob Barbee. I've been asked this question, why, by so many of my friends, it's not even funny. I had an uncle in high school who taught me civics. And he said, if you have the ability to help your country, then you have the obligation to help your country. That's the main reason I'm here, one of the main reasons. I'm going to read a quote to you from Thomas Jefferson. He said, I predict future happiness for the American people if, and this is a big if, they can prevent the government from wasting the labors of the people under the pretense of taking care of them. I believe this is where we are today. How Thomas Jefferson knew that 200 years ago is beyond me. But he knew it, and he wrote it down, and here we are. The other reason, I had a granddad who said, if you find yourself in a hole, the best thing to do is stop digging. And our politicians won't quit digging. We're $40 trillion in debt. It takes $1 trillion a year to service that debt. And we're going broke. And it's my biggest fear that we're not going to be able to take care of our elderly and our veterans as we promised them. And so I have a plan to fix all this. A health care plan that resets health care back to the 200% Obamacare increase we've seen now. Thank you.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Abraham Enriquez, and my why is goes back to my grandparents, who in the 70s immigrated here under the Braceros program that President Reagan did. And they were farm workers and they were dishwashers right here in the land in West Texas. And they taught me that in West Texas, anything is possible. 2 generations later, their grandson now stands before you with the privilege of running for office, the very same land that my grandparents picked cotton and cantaloupes in. For the past 10 years, I built an organization from the ground up that has now presence in Texas, Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, Ohio, Pennsylvania, bringing in over 1 million new voters into the Republican coalition, which led me to have the RNC's Rising Star Award. And it led me to lead President Trump's largest Hispanic voter operation, getting him 50% of the Hispanic electorate, the most any presidential candidate has ever seen. As an official and vetted partner to Domestic Policy Council with Trump Admin 1 and Trump Admin 2, as with my mentor, Brooke Rollins, the chair of the Domestic Policy Council, now Secretary of Agriculture, I helped over a dozen pieces of executive orders and legislation get across the finish line in Congress. Really, on the business side, I have a business trade association that has brought in over $100 million of investments into America and led the first North American Business Roundtable at the White House last year. But let me tell you why. My biggest why is when my grandparents came here, they didn't know about a man named Jesus. And here in West Texas, they gave their the Lord into their heart. And I was taught that in West Texas, you don't skip policy and Bible.
Ladies and gentlemen of Taylor County, Texas, I like this interactive crowd. I'm Tom Sell. I'm a 5th generation West Texan, and I'm in this race because I love this land. I love our nation, and I love my West Texas heritage. I met my wife, who's here with me tonight, Kyla, of 28 years at our beloved Texas Tech. She also was raised in West Texas. We've been very blessed to raise 4 kids in West Texas. Our first grandbaby is on its way. Our oldest is serving in our nation's military at Fort Bragg in North Carolina. We're so proud of our kids, but we are empty nesters this year. When we get into this race, we are thinking about the future of our nation, the future of West Texas. I think what distinguishes me, I don't just talk conservative values, we've lived them. We've lived them here in West Texas. I've also been in the trenches for the 19th District of Texas. I worked in Washington, D.C. from 1995 to 2003 with former Congressman Larry Combest, the first Republican elected in this West Texan region. I've spent my career fighting for the people who make West Texas truly great. Now, Kyle and I want to bring this experience, our West Texas grit, our credibility forward in service. We're going to fight for the farmers, the ranchers, the oil field workers, the teachers, colleges, our healthcare, our military, our veterans. I look forward to your questions tonight, and I'm so pleased to be here.
Check, check. Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Ryan Zink, and I want to be your next congressman. The last 5 years, I have been in a massive fight with the federal government. I was at the Capitol on January 6th. My crime, protecting police officers on the East Porch. And for that, I had my business taken from me. I got to spend 84 days in federal prison after I refused a plea deal from the government. And at what cost? I had 2 miscarriages with my beautiful wife during this time. We had to get married under the cover of darkness so they wouldn't register her as a domestic terrorist and come into all of our homes. The only thing holding this back from happening to your families right now is an executive order. So after being beaten and tortured in Washington, D.C., and then sent to a cartel prison in Arizona, I have continued the fight over the last 5 years. I have litigation that's gone all the way up to the Supreme Court, where I won and defeated my felony. I've had my case overturned completely, and my judge is up for impeachment. My pledge to this district is that I will never stop fighting. There are 3 books that govern this land, and they will always be with me: the Bible, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights, and they build right off of each other. I believe that life starts at conception, and I'm ready to fight for this district and keep on winning just like I've been doing. Thank y'all.
All right. Our first question, besides the personality question, is Abilene is home to Stargate, the AI data center. What is your position on AI? And do you believe there's enough accountability when it comes to AI? And what would it look like to have a good partnership with Taylor County and AI? Good.
Okay, now I think
Minute and a half.
I think we've all figured out the microphone. So, okay, AI, it's a tool. At the end of the day, it's an algorithm. It's a decision tree. It just works 100 times faster than our own minds do. So it's already here. We need to go ahead and start using it. Other nations are already using these things. Many other nations that are also our enemies now. Do we have our own AI? Is this technology that the government's been developing? Yeah, I mean, ChatGPT, when you look at that, ChatGPT, that's 20 years old. That's old military hardware. If you want to see some really interesting AI, do a little bit of research about the AI that our federal government used to basically spam all of the missile or anti-aircraft equipment that Venezuela had when they went in and grabbed Maduro. So that's a really neat one. It's a really good read. They were able to convince their anti-aircraft that weapons that there was thousands of planes in the air, completely confused it. So this thing is here. It's not going away. So we need to keep it as a tool and use it as a tool. When you start letting the AI make decisions for you, that's where you're going to have problems. There's nothing wrong with an AI-assisted doctor, but when the AI becomes your doctor, you may have a problem. Anybody remember getting on WebMD? Every time I put something on WebMD, it told me I had cancer. Anybody else ever had that problem? Now, that being said, I also remember when my daughter was little, going to the ER with her and having a doctor that walked in with an iPad, and he held it up and he said, "Hey, did it look like this when she did that?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's it." That's assistance from AI, folks. It's nothing new.
AI and Sharia Law are two of the big things on the minds of West Texans and people around the country. AI is a tool, and it is also dangerous. I was working in San Jose. Is that better? I apologize. I'll get this down. Last year when I was working in San Jose, we started hearing about 3 mainframe computers that had been instructed to work on an AI project. And the computers stopped taking instructions from the people who were programming them and started talking among themselves, and then developed their own language. As you remember, early in the Trump administration, these people went to Trump and said, "We have to shut it down." Well, we didn't shut it down. We can't shut it down because China is developing this very rapidly. We have to stay ahead of China. We have absolutely no choice. So we need to develop this along with safeguards so the computers don't take over, so they don't turn into hell like we saw in Space Odyssey 2001, where hell takes over and says that the humans are irrelevant. We have to keep this out of the hands of the bad guys, the James Bond type criminals. We have to stay one step ahead of them, but we have to develop it so we stay ahead of China, because our Golden Dome is run by artificial intelligence. We don't want Chinese artificial intelligence taking over. It's a tool, it's a great opportunity, it's going to bring tremendous amount of jobs and wealth and opportunity and energy here to West Texas. So let's embrace it and let's protect ourselves.
So like most people, when I heard AI, I didn't know what it was. I'll be honest. I didn't have a clue what it meant. I know it is artificial intelligence, but what are we going to do with it? I believe it's going to be a tremendous benefit to our military, no doubt. We've already seen, though, where it can be detrimental to our children. People have gotten online, these kids have, and AI has convinced them to commit suicide. We've seen it more than once. So there's a downfall to it, as well as being something that's good for us. Now, because I didn't know what it was, I went and listened to a leukemia doctor. And the way he explained it was, for 12 years he'd been working on leukemia. And he had finally, in 12 years, come up with the gene that causes leukemia. And it took him 12 years. A lot of his patients are in remission because of the work that he's done. However, he says with AI, what took him 12 years could be done in 6 weeks. And he seems to believe that in 3 years, there'll be a cure for all cancer once we get AI online. My biggest issue for our community here, though, with AI is, do we have the infrastructure for the people coming into this town? Do we have the water to support all these plans? So at the community level, I have a little bit of a problem with it. Thank you.
Yeah, I echo a lot of what my colleagues have said about it. I think it's an exciting time for Taylor County. All eyes on the nation are on you and the investments that's coming in. I had a conversation with a good friend, Undersecretary of State, Jacob Helberg, who really opened my eyes to what AI really is. And at the core, it could be a national security risk. So I think that as investment is coming into Abilene, it's really important to ensure that no foreign interference is coming into our systems as well. Echoing what Mr. Barbee said, as well as ensuring that the infrastructure is ready and in place to receive this kind of investment. Look, our district, our community looks a lot younger than when last time we had an open primary. This last election cycle was one of the first time Gen Z and millennial voters outpaced baby boomers. When you're talking to young voters, the thing they care about is the cost of the rising cost of living, being able to own a home. Here in Abilene, you have graduates just like me who come out of ACU and they want to stay in the community. But the rising housing costs because of the AI data centers coming in kind of makes that dream, the American dream of home ownership, out of reach. So I'm all for growth so long as it's held accountable to the community and it's not leaving our community aside. So national security, infrastructure, and ensuring that our housing market is ready to compete with that is really important.
This is such a great question, and it's been so fun to engage. As I've gotten around the entire 19th district, the 33 counties, there's a lot of activity. Our state senator, Charles Perry, he refers to this area as the epicenter of AI investment worldwide. One of the things I love about West Texas is our kind of blue sky optimism. We are tough people. We confront the future with courage and with grit. And there are a lot of challenges. There are a lot of concerns about AI. There are a lot of kind of fearful things. But I'll tell you this, and this is what I love about West Texas, the problems associated with growth are always better than the problems associated with stagnation. So I think we have to embrace this. We have to think about the long-term implications relative to our resources. Water is a primary one. We are in this water-scarce environment. And we have to make sure that we are adopting the technology and that the companies that are coming in are adopting the technology to reuse the water so that the footprint is very small. We also have to be concerned about the ratepayers, and honestly, we need to hold ratepayers harmless on their electricity rates. Now, there's great technology in the offing to increase the productivity and the efficiency of our energy production. One area where I've had some experience and work is in these modular nuclear reactors. Very excited about what's going on right here in Abilene with the Natura project at ACU. It's stinking awesome, this molten salt reactor that can take care of the energy needs and provide the electricity that's required without harming the ratepayers. Thanks.
Well, AI is not just about, national security and foreign influence and everything else. It can also be used by our government too, as it was around a bunch of J6ers, where they go and they classify you as a white Christian nationalist and then start pulling everything off of all of your social media accounts, the people that you work with, your children, family, they monitor all of that with it. So there's going to have to be a series of protections, but there has to be a plan too with AI, and particularly if it's coming into this region after working with Zero, which is was an Arizona-based company. I think that we should look more into the generators. We have atmospheric water generators that would help to produce pure, clean water that comes off, and we can supply those generators off of flare gas that we have that comes right out of the ground of our oil and gas here in West Texas. So after seeing and being around both of those during my career in the oil field, this is a feasible option that should be able to keep good AI centers here, but the biggest, most important thing that comes with AI is there has to be a checks and balances. That's one of the biggest things that we have to have. We have to protect not only our country, but in the individuals themselves, both at the state level and at the federal level. So we have to go in and we have to make sure that we don't have anybody inside of there that would abuse the systems that are set up. AI can be the most beautiful thing that's ever been created until one person decides that they're going to violate your rights with it. Outside of that, we have the infrastructure here in the area that we can make it happen without raising the cost, but it's going to have to start with probably some federal subsidies and maybe some state level interactions to get the generators. Thank you.
All right, well, here in Taylor County, we have certainly seen the pros and cons of having the data center here. However, as a country, we have to look at this and realize that it's a massive part of national security. And so I see that we're in this AI race, and we are at the beginning of the data center alley. It's going to be something that continues through the area. We have to regulate it federally. This is not a state thing. We have, it's moving way too quick and too much on our plate to allow that to go to the states and allow there to be bad actors to step in. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth said that they're looking to put these data centers on government properties, and that is something we have to secure our borders, whether it's the physical border or it's the border with all this AI stuff. It's something that absolutely has to have intentional scrutiny over this. We use it for a lot of stuff. I personally use it. I know many of y'all use it. It's a great thing. I see it a lot like the internet. And when the internet was kicking off, there were a lot of people that were afraid of it. And there needs to be regulations on it. However, if we don't win this race, we'll end up like Europe, losing the internet race. This is something that's going to be huge for our economy, and we have to focus on it, and we have to win. To win the AI race, it's going to come down significantly to the energy. We cannot do it only with gas. We have to look at the molten reactors and be able to, oh, that timer. Thank you.
How can Congress lower health care costs while preserving patient choices and limiting government control over health care decisions? 90 seconds.
Thank you. My background is surgery. My background is running medical centers and hospitals. I was brought to Texas Tech to bail out a major surgical department in trouble, and we bailed it out and put it on high standing. I've helped to bail out 2 other hospitals. I've worked in 9 VA medical centers where we have the biggest problem with government bureaucracy. So first of all, we need to get the government out of the way as best possible. That is, cut down regulations so we can deliver health care. When you get the government involved with this printing press, costs go up, just like with education, just like with everything else. We need to get people in charge who know what they're doing to bring down the cost. Some of you are old enough to remember when you went to a physician, you had the receptionist who was also his bookkeeper, you had the physician, and you had a nurse. Now you go in and there's 10 or 15 people. What are all those people doing in there? Well, they're helping to keep the regulations under control. How do these people get paid? Well, there's only one person in that office who gets paid, that's the doctor. So costs go up, quality goes down. We're going to work to bring the quality of healthcare up, to bring the costs down, to get regulations to the point where we're protecting the patient and we can bring down the cost of healthcare, pharmaceuticals, and everything else that's associated with it.
So I have a health care plan. It takes Medicare and extends it to every citizen in this country as an insurance policy. You'll buy it just like you do your health care insurance now, only we're going to reset it. It won't be the 200% increase you've seen with Obamacare. The Democrats ruined our health care. And if you're old enough, you'll remember when the government ruined our insurance, our vehicle insurance. They've done the same thing with our health care insurance. And they don't care. They're not doing anything about it. And our government's going broke. Just today, we've decided to send another $1 trillion to the insurance companies in hopes that they'll lower our health care costs by 4%, or 7% of the people that are on Obamacare, which means the other 93% are going to keep paying the same price. My plan makes the government put a plan out there for every citizen at a reasonable rate, and if the insurance companies want to stay in the business, they're going to have to lower their costs to compete. You won't have to be on the government plan, but even if you buy a private insurance plan, if they want to compete with the government, they're going to have to lower their costs. This is the only way we can fix it. I promise you, there's not another thing we can do. Our government's already spending $1.6 trillion more dollars than they're bringing in every year. It's time to make a change. It's time for a new plan.
This question right now has me thinking a lot, more often than not now, of my cousin, who is just a little older than I am. We grew up together, and she's like my older sister. Her husband wakes up every morning at 3 a.m., takes a drive down to Big Spring. He works in the oil fields, a very hardworking man. She drops her kids off at school, and then she heads into her salon where she is a small business owner. Just got diagnosed with cancer a couple months ago, and right now, what they have just doesn't work. And I've realized that we have to ensure that we're expanding healthcare savings accounts, but also price transparency market based on what actually lowers cost without government takeover. And whether you're a business owner who really has to think twice before being able to hire more people onto your business, or a single mother who doesn't understand which healthcare market is actually better for them, it's simple, it's best, is the fact that government overreach has really gotten us to where we're at today. So that's the healthcare issue.
This is such a good question. How do we lower healthcare costs, make it more accessible, and maintain all the options? I got to say first, I think President Trump put out a really good framework 2 weeks ago with his great healthcare plan. This is going to be a topic in Congress this year. What did he focus on? Well, one, trying to bring down the cost of pharmaceuticals and drugs. Second, trying to hold the big insurance companies more accountable. And third, trying to take out some of the middlemen from this process. There are a lot of costs built in that are not the cost of the docs, not the real cost to the patients. They're the middlemen there are just too many noses in this trough. When I think about healthcare, I think what we really have to do is empower the people. And I'll tell you, Kyle and I, in raising our 4 kids, we have used the health savings account, and that cash pay for small things is a great way to bring down the costs. You generally get a 25% discount with cash pay, cash on the barrelhead. And I think we need to empower the people in this decision-making process. The second thing, we've got to empower the docs, right? We don't want a bureaucratic healthcare agency in Washington, D.C. defining the healthcare that we need. That decision-making, it needs to be done by the docs in that patient care. Finally, I think we really got to work in this debate to make sure that we stand by our more rural healthcare infrastructure. Beware of Washington, D.C. ideas that are going to try and bring efficiencies into the system that end up injuring more rural healthcare systems, even like Hendrick here in Abilene. We've got to stand by our rural healthcare infrastructure. Thanks.
Well, I think the biggest thing that we have to do is we have to break up the monopolies with the insurance companies, but not just that. Like right here in Taylor County, there's a monopoly that I've come to understand after talking to people about how there's only like one care coverage provider, and they're not going to break that up. So that's an issue. With the major companies, we need to drag them in front of Congress with subpoenas and have them explain to the American people why they're robbing us blind when we can sell insulin on the other side of the border for $25, and in some cases it's $2,000 over here. We have to get rid of that red tape. We have to have not only, stateside, but international transparency on the way that they are formulating and making these products to get to the people. And then we need to have checks and balances on where they come from and if they're actually good for us, like we had with the COVID debacle. Because the government should never be allowed to force somebody, or a business should never be allowed to force somebody to inject something into their body that they do not want in there. And there should be no recourse or consequence from that. And if there is, that's a constitutional violation. You take it up and you go after them. We, the people, have to stand up right now to get the health care coverage that we want. I think Donald Trump has done a great job here in the last couple of weeks setting it up, but it's not enough. We got to be the ones to go in and break up these monopolies and filibuster if we have to make sure that we get what we want out of our health care system in the United States. Thank you.
All right, so we all know that the Affordable Care Act wasn't very affordable. The thing that we see is, I'm seeing the same thing in the roofing industry when we see prices of all the inputs, all of the things going on, insurance premiums are going up, natural disasters, all of the things are happening, and then we have inflation, and all of it is making it to where our homes are becoming more unaffordable. We're having issues with like being able to get to the closing table on real estate transactions. And it's something that's hurting us in every industry, I believe, not just in health, but insurance across the board. I think that Trump did put out a pretty good plan, and what we have to see, I haven't read through everything on it. The high level that I looked at, it seems like the Republicans and Trump have a pretty proactive plan to put this back in the hands of the people instead of the big monopolistic insurance companies. And we have to really look at this and wonder, how do we expose corruption? Well, I think that we get big pharma out of the way. Anytime that we get the big companies to stop playing games with our health, we're going to be in a lot better spot. I like Ryan, I do not think that we should have to put anything in our bodies. We shouldn't lose jobs because we have a moral or legal, any kind of religious exemption, and yet it's something that the government seemed to think it was okay, and so many of these people bullied us. We have to expose that corruption, and we need to bring that most favored nation into everything when it comes to healthcare also. Man, that timer again.
So the question was fix medicine in 90 seconds and go. Okay. So how long a history lesson do y'all want? So let's jump back to the beginning. Let's go back to World War II, back when we wouldn't let people switch companies because it might affect the war effort. So what did they do? How were they able to get, they couldn't compete on wages. What did they do? They started giving out health insurance. They got people moving back and forth. Do you want to build Jeeps or you want to build bombers? I don't know. Who's got this newfangled health insurance nobody's ever heard of? Government intervention caused that problem. One more point for government. Okay, jump forwards a little bit. Kennedy's getting office. Guess what happened? You know how the doctors used to take care of everybody? Used to, if you showed up to the doctor and you're to the hospital and you were too poor to pay for your health care, you still got health care. Why? The churches ran the hospitals. I mean, I grew up with St. Mary's and later became Covenant. And Methodist. That's who ran that. Okay, guess what? They said that's unconstitutional for the hospitals to make these doctors work for free to have to get their rounds. Okay, so they messed with it again. Now that drove up the price of medicine. Let's jump forwards a little bit further. Okay, let's jump all the way up to 2012. Yeah, the Affordable Health Care Act, which was neither. But hey, there you go. Whatever the government tells you they're going to do, it's actually the opposite. So, affordable health care. Well, I know what it ain't. That's pretty simple. But hey, do y'all remember in 2012 all those health insurance companies that went out of business? Remember all that? No, you don't, because it didn't happen. Health insurance has never gone out of business. Why? Because the government says you have to have it. Pull the regulations. Get rid of the three-letter agencies. It's the same old same. Thank you.
Ready? The Safeguard American Voter Eligibility, the SAVE Act, aims to tighten federal election security by requiring documentation, proof of U.S. citizenship for voter registration. Do you believe this is enough to ensure election results are trustworthy and accurate? What else, if anything, needs to be done?
We need to stop all the mail-in voting. I mean, if you're a service member overseas, you're out of the country, I think it should be allowed. But other than that, it shouldn't. I think what happened in 2020, and I think there's still some question there as to whether or not there was some cheating went on. Everybody seems to think there was, but the mail-in ballots did us in 2020. So, the machines need to be checked, calibrated. I have a friend that he claims that his family was trying to vote in Virginia and the machine kept putting their candidate in instead of the voter's candidate. So I don't know, I've never experienced that here. Texas has a good voting, and we have to show ID. And I believe you should have to show ID. You've got to show ID for everything in this country. I don't care what you're doing. You can't get on an airplane. You just can't do anything without ID. So why would we open it up and say, okay, well, we don't need ID to vote? That's ridiculous. If you don't have an ID, you shouldn't be able to vote. And we've got to clean up the mess that we have right now. I know they're saying paper ballots. I really don't think I want to go back to paper ballots, but we need to get rid of the fraud and stuff that's going on with our voting.
Working as an official surrogate to the president's campaign, not just only this last election cycle, but in 2020, I was stationed in Arizona, Nevada, and Pennsylvania. Let me tell you, that election made me so happy to be from Texas, where we still have safeguarded our elections. And I'm 100% in support of the SAVE Act. I think our voting privilege should only be casted to those that are American citizens. Do I believe that it takes the right step? I do, but I think we can do more. Quite honestly, if it was up to me, I would do one day of voting in person. I know we can't have it all, but we've done plenty with early voting. I do agree we need to reel back the openness of mail-in ballots. But quite honestly, I think that codifying Trump's border security laws is super important, that we're going to do on day one. But also ensuring that those who are here illegally don't ever get a fighting shot at getting a voter ID card, because the other side knows that it doesn't matter if they're full-on citizens. Just so long as they're heavy populated in areas, and in Texas, we're ground zero for illegal immigration. So as illegal immigration continues to rise and we don't get these deportations on time, our areas like Abilene, like Lubbock, like Plainview, like Big Springs are going to be overcrowded to where we won't have a fighting shot at Republican federal races anymore.
This is an easy one, and these are great answers. Everyone, well done. Election integrity is paramount, period. And look, we live in a fallen world, right? Cheating in elections is as old as the hills. And you gotta have transparency, you gotta have layers, you gotta have people watching each other, you have to have poll watchers and ballot counters and layers to make sure that everyone is holding the line, expecting that in a fallen world, people are going to want to try and get an advantage. I think that is the problem that we've seen in recent elections. And so I support the SAVE Act for sure. I mean, voting is a privilege, right? And you must be a US citizen in good standing to be able to cast that ballot. It is a privilege that we have as American citizens, and it's a crime to rob or to dilute the good, upstanding citizens' rights with low protections at the ballot box. So I'm for it, and I think we also need to. We shouldn't just make this as easy as possible for everyone out there. We've got to have standards around the voting booth, and certainly an ID is absolutely needed. Thanks.
Well, my stance on this is no mail-in ballots, 1 day for a vote, paper ballots, hand counts, and there's no blocks to the public if they want to go in and audit those. I'm proud to be endorsed by Colonel Conrad Reynolds from the Arkansas Election Initiative. I have worked on election integrity, and I went to prison for election integrity because I would not back down from the things that I would see. Now, we've seen the first arrest in Wisconsin from the work that I did with Colonel Conrad Reynolds up there, holding a Republican accountable, Robin Voss, for hiding the voter systems. You can go and look at that, or I have additional information from it. But the first arrest came out of that campaign. We're turning over more evidence on that any day now that's probably going to get some more people arrested over in that area. And that's the way that it needs to be. No amnesty for illegals. If you're not American, you don't vote here, you have no business being our elections or owning land here. None of that foreign influence coming in saying, I bought this. You want to come in and be an American, you got to get with our system. 1 day vote, paper ballots, voter ID, no mail-in ballots, and let's knock all the corrupt crap out of the room, because we get rid of all these machines and everything else and let good people, it can be done. It can be done. Look at the Clay Perrick and the things that he's done in Maricopa County. They have way more people than we do, and they got those votes done. And they did it down by Houston, so we've done it in the state. We can do it here in CD19. No questions asked.
I need more than 90 seconds. All right, so this is, it's obviously a big deal. How do we make sure that our vote counts? You know, whenever I was in the oil field, I had this tough time of nothing I felt like ever, no matter how I voted, it seemed like it didn't matter, because there was always going to be corruption, there's always going to be something. So we either have to do one of two things here. I see that we need to do, like Brian's saying, we have to go to the paper ballot, voter ID, no mail-in, 1 day, or we can look at some advanced technology. We either have to scale up or scale back. And if we can go to the blockchain or use the technology that's out there now to be able to have a secure way of verifying who it is that's actually voting, there's a lot out there. But what we have available right now is the more basic 1 day voting that direction. But we do have to codify the things that Trump has said, making sure that we have the secure border so that we don't have people coming in and voting illegally. It's just crazy. Why would we want someone to break into our country and then get to have a say in the way that we run it? We can't allow this. We have to have the voter integrity, and we have to stop by exposing the corruption and seeing what insider games are going on. I do not want to see another election stolen because someone shows up with suitcases and they think that they get to have their way. I am out on it. We have to have prosecution for the people that are breaking the laws. We have to enforce the laws that we already have and stop playing game at that timer.
Okay, a couple of things I want to point out. I like the direction the SAVE Act is going in, but do you trust Donald Trump to run your elections nationwide? I do. How about Joe Biden? What are you going to do when a Democrat gets back in office? There's a lot of talk about going to national elections. If you want to say the federal government has a say in how elections get done nationally, well, the national elections, we can have that conversation. The states need to be the ones to decide how their state election is going to be run. Now, that being said, if Texas has to be in an election, like for president in, say 2020, we ought to be able to sue other states when they go out and flagrantly violate the law, even their own laws. So, should we talk about that at the national level? Yes. At the state level, that's a different discussion. States need to maintain their independence and their authority to do that. So if you want to solve all this, get after your governor and have them call for a constitution of states. This is needed to happen for a lot of other problems. It's the United States of America. It's not America of the United States. We need to remember that, and we should rule that way in this nation, okay? Have your governor call for a constitution of states so we can solve these problems. Now, that being said, as a county commissioner and having to deal with county elections and, having to be present when the vote is counted, there's a couple things that I can tell you. One, mail-in ballots, unless the person's serving overseas, need to go away. Two, early voting, you need to cut that down to about 3 days. Or do away with it altogether, and we just go ahead and make Election Day a national holiday. That way everybody gets to go vote. You want to pass a law, give people 4 hours every day off of work to go vote when there's an election. Thank you.
SAVE Act is a good start. Photo IDs, limiting to 1 day. Military, other people who can't make it. We have great internet, and we have a great way of documenting people on internet so we know who they are. But the important thing is, as Joseph Stalin said, it's who counts the votes that matters. It doesn't matter what votes are cast. Point in part, 1960 election, my good friend George, his family had brought him from Ukraine after World War II. His mom had a job counting votes in the 1960 election, and she was told how to count votes. Here's a pile for Richard Nixon, you put 1 ballot there, and here's a pile for John F. Kennedy, you put 2 ballots there. Doesn't matter what's on the ballot, that's how you do it. 1 for Nixon, 2 for JFK. Mayor Daley was mayor up there when I was in medical school, and his mantra was vote early and vote often. I lived in the middle of the Italian ghetto. That was the safest place to live because the the mafiosa told us, we like you doctors. We're going to protect you. Nothing's going to happen to you. And sure enough, 9 years I was up there, nothing happened to me. My car was safe. Went to the polls on voting day. There was a man there with a pile of $5 bills. Every time you went in to vote, you got a $5 bill, and you had a list of dead people whose names you voted in. So again, we need security. We need to know who's voting. People who don't belong here should not be voting.
Ready? Inflation has hurt working families, farmers, and seniors across Texas. What steps would you take to support in Congress to rein in federal spending and reduce inflation?
I think that's part of the problem that we have now are people who run for office and they get up there and they plan to retire and not to serve. That's why I think term limits, and I'm a proud signer of the term limit pledge. Because when you get to DC and you lose focus on the people that you serve, you forget about things that matter to the community. And so I think it's important that you go up there with the mindset of having yourself a deadline, but also the fact that our government goes crazy on spending billions of dollars on green new energy scam stuff that only puts the cost of living up to the everyday voter is something that's quite honestly, I don't understand how people can just get away with that. Unleashing American energy dominance, ensuring that a single mom or a working family never has to worry about either filling their gas tank in their car to make it to work or completing their grocery list. And that starts by reining in spending, going back to an item veto line in the budget bill, and ensuring that you're working consistently together with your members of Congress to ensure that you're serving the people and not big corporate interests. Congress has gotten way too accountable to big money and not to the everyday voter. So bringing it right back, localizing policy is, I think, what's going to be the best draw factor to not go back to President Otto Pinn's disastrous 40-year decade high of inflation.
I love the way you asked the question. How do we rein in spending and reduce inflation? Because the two are indeed connected. We saw that there's no better, or I guess worse example of that than the so-called Inflation Reduction Act passed by the Democratic Congress and President Biden 3 years ago. A huge, I think it was a $6 trillion bill. This was the Green New scam that was foisted upon the American people, but a huge amount of spending that did in fact correlate to, and I would argue cause, rampant inflation in 2024. It was unbelievable. And it was all connected to the spending in large S out of the federal government. Obviously, President Trump has come into office. A lot of that spending has been reined in. I'm a big proponent of the DOGE effort, the Department of Government Efficiency. We have to rein in spending to bring our federal budget deficit under control. We've got to reverse the curse, as Jody Arrington has said many times and provided great leadership on, to address our nation's national debt. We are seeing some decreases in price, right? It doesn't cost as much to fill up today as it did a year and 2 years ago. That's great. Some grocery prices are coming down. That's a big thing. But we do have areas of affordability that we still have to address. One is certainly on housing. And this is where I really appreciate President Trump trying to address, even with the newly appointed Fed chairman, trying to address interest rates. Because we bring down interest rates, we are going to address our nation's deficit and spending. So many things can be done, and I look forward to talking about it more.
All right. Well, I think one of the things that we need to do is we need to make it much, much harder to become an NGO. Because any time that a non-government organization is affected by a government shutdown, that's not an NGO. That's an extension of the government. So when we look at all of the spending that was done by the weak, ineffective last administration that we had, where was all of our money going? Overseas. So we need to dry up some of those networks. America first means America first. Our money has to stay here so that we can utilize it. That's number one. So when we strip all of this spending down, we have to go in and we actually have to do something about it. The fraud that we've been detecting, Trump's done a great job so far. We've got to get more prosecutions. We have to go to the DOJ, change some things out there, and make it more accountable to the individuals that are wasting all of our taxpayer money. $40 trillion is nothing to shine at. We have got to leave something for my beautiful daughter and the one that's coming right behind her, for your grandchildren, for your children. We've got to rein in our spending in its entirety as we battle inflation. Here's how we do it. It's right under our feet. Drill, baby, drill. Let's open American energy independence to the point to where other countries are begging to work with us because we have got it and it isn't going anywhere anytime soon. We open up the American energy independence sector of oil and gas. We can pay off this national debt very, very fast. We just have to do it with our allies and make sure that we're not selling to countries that would come back and use it against us with retaliatory tariffs.
Okay, so we have to expose the corruption that's going on to deal with the inflation. When we have people that are making money off of the taxpayers, we have a real problem. It's going to drive our input cost up significantly. And so whenever I'm saying this, what do we do to drive the prices down? Well, think about whenever we have fertilizer or seeds or equipment that's costing us significantly more here than it does in other countries. That's a problem. We saw this with healthcare, and we saw that Trump was able to make it to where we have the most favored nation. We have to be able to do that with our inputs of the things so we can compete on a level playing field. We can't play games with other countries, let these big companies make more off of us Americans than they do in other areas. We have to expose the corruption. We have to bring to light where these things are hidden, because like a cockroach, if you shine a light on it, it's going to run. We have to do that same thing. I believe that there's a lot of corruption that's going on in our government, which is affecting the price of all of our, like everything, driving inflation up. The backroom deals, the insider games. Really, we have to stop the politicians from cashing in while we feel the squeeze. That's what it's going to take. Y'all, I see the things with insurance. Roofing goes up, insurance goes up. Insurance goes up, we can't buy the houses. Our cars. We have, oh, that timer. Thank you.
He's raising it quicker on you than he is me, I swear. Okay, so how do we stop the spending and stop wasting money, and then how do we get rid of the inflation? Well, it's really simple. It's not going to be that hard. We need to turn the omnibus into a minibus. So that's not going to be that bad. So how do you get them to actually do that? Well, let's take the 84,000 IRS agents that were hired under the Biden administration, and we're going to have them audit where the money is going and where it's not coming from, instead of where it's coming from. How many people in this room own a quality Leering center? Anybody? Any takers on that? Anybody out there committing massive government fraud? Now raise your hands if you've ever been audited before. Anybody else got that letter? Yeah. Bet you stole less than them Somalis up in Minnesota. I mean, this is ridiculous. I'm kidding. I bet you didn't steal anything at all. But here's the point. Who do we need to be auditing? The people that are spending our money. That's where they need to go. I mean, does your accountant come in and you audit your business at the end of the year and say how much you put in your pocket? No, they come in and say, okay, well, let's look and see where this is going, where this is going, where this is going. Why is the secretary making so much? Oh, that's a problem. Okay, so, we've seen those things happen, right? Okay, so if we want to start solving some of this, first off, start auditing where all the money goes from. That's the number one thing that needs to happen. The other thing, how do you fix the inflation? Look at the Fed. Who decides what the inflation is going to be? Stop printing the money. Just stop printing money. That's what causes inflation. It's not rocket science. They teach this in the half a semester that we get of government education in the public school. It's not that hard.
Several things we need to do. One is drain the swamp, as Trump is doing, getting the politicians out of the way. Term limits, 10 years is enough up there so people don't get used to making riches and becoming powerful and famous. We need to get spending cut down. The government printing press is a big problem. Welfare, education, healthcare should all be returned to the states. We have a federal obligation for Social Security and Medicare. We need to handle those. We need to figure out how to do that. The problem is that Social Security recipients are getting about 1/4 to 1/5 of the money they should be getting if that money was properly handled. We need to unleash the unbelievable potential of U.S. agriculture and energy production. We get that going, that brings costs down, that brings down the cost of eggs, that brings down the cost of fuel, and it brings up the amount of supplies we have. Two things cause inflation. One is government spending, the other is things being in short supply. So if we increase supplies, prices are going to come down. We need to wisely use government leases. We own tremendous amounts of energy, metals, rare earths. We have more rare earths here in the United States than anywhere else. We need to get adequate federal money back for that. The federal government needs to be a part of that, and we have trillions of dollars that we can bring into our coffers along with the tariffs, and it'll bring down our federal budget.
I want to say this. If I thought the federal government was going to fix it, I wouldn't be here. This is the only reason I'm here. $40 trillion worth of debt, and they just keep raising the debt ceiling for one reason or another. I'd like to blame it all on the Democrats. Obamacare caused a whole lot of our problems, but we also had 9/11. We also had COVID. These things over the last 2 decades have contributed to all of our financial problems that we have. We've got to get this under control. It's not if we can, it's we must. We have to stop spending. We have to stop this deficit spending. And you don't hear anybody talking about it. They don't care. They just keep raising the debt ceiling, and we're going to do this. Now, the big, beautiful bill, in case some of you don't know, a lot of it's temporary. I don't believe that's what President Trump wanted, but that's the way he got. And the reason he did is because our Congress knows when you're $40 trillion in debt, you can't start giving the money back to the American people. It takes that money to run all the programs that they have. With my tax reform plan and my health care plan, money starts coming into the government that they've never had before. We start paying down the debt. Everybody starts paying taxes instead of punishing the hardworking Americans in this country. And we'll solve the problem. Thank you.
Do you believe that there is a place for Sharia law or any other foreign legal system in the United States? I think this is gonna be an easy one. And what would you do in Congress to ensure that laws are based solely on the Constitution?
Thank you for this question. This is a genuine concern in our society. I having worked in and around Washington, D.C. as a young man, having studied the Constitution in law school, let me just say first, we are indeed blessed to live in this great land where we have a limited and by design, inefficient governmental system that's designed to protect the liberties of the people. Our U.S. Constitution is a sacred document. I appreciate you bringing that up, Mr. Zink. And its design is genius because it understands the fallenness of man. It knows that we need checks and balances and a divided and inefficient government, again, to protect our liberties as people. I'm running because our whole desire is to empower the people and protect those sacred liberties, those things that truly make America great. Sharia law has no place in the United States of America. It is a fundamentally different system that is evil at its core. It tries to empower certain lords among people over the people. And that is not what the American project is about. So we have to fight, and we have to be defenders and proponents of this U.S. Constitution, a limited government, and that's what I'm going to be about in Washington, D.C.
So the obvious answer for me is no. but I do want to get into the history lesson of what comes behind the Bible. The Bible is the living word of God. It moves, it is forever, it is always, it will always be the truth. Let me tell you what Allah says about what Sharia law and Muslims are allowed to do to non-believers, whether you're a Christian or not. They're allowed to cut off your hands and feet, rape your women. They're allowed to lie to you, steal to you, and murder you. This is the words of Allah. You can go look this up. This is what he sent out whenever he wrote the books. Now, our Constitution doesn't allow this. One, our state constitution and the United States Constitution doesn't allow us, but the Muslim culture is slavery. They are enslaving women all across the world. And I stand on my platform where I am that we have to protect women at all costs, and slavery will never, ever be something that I will vote for. Sharia law has no place in America. It has no place in District 19. It has no place inside of our neighborhoods, our schools, and it is encroaching rapidly. We have Colony Ridge. We have so many different areas, even inside of Lubbock, to where I'm starting to see that there may be some activity coming towards our children, moving into our schools. We cannot have this. We have to fight back against this. The Word of God is the only thing that this country was founded on. The Bible, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. Sharia law and Islam has no place in America.
Direct answer, no, we cannot. The Bible is what we should look through, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. It is, in no way should we allow a jihadist or anyone to come into our country with intent to harm, kill us. It is ludicrous that we're even having this conversation because so many people think that it's okay. When we look at Turkey, going back to a place that was a Christian nation, now they're well in the upper 90% of Muslim. I'm not saying every Muslim is bad. I'm just saying, look at the country. If we don't think it can happen to us, we are naive at best. It can happen here. It's already happening in the Metroplex. There's plenty of religious places that go against what our scripture says. We cannot allow it. We have to secure our borders. We can't let them come in. It isn't only people that are coming from Mexico. It's people from all over the world that intend harm on us. We secure our borders just like we lock our doors. Stop letting people in that intend to harm us. We're at war. We're getting outbred. We have to have babies, raise them in biblical ways, not in this watered down church that so many people claim to be a Christian and then they don't do anything about it. Y'all, it's time that we not only go, oh my goodness, I was just getting started.
So as everyone else has said, in short, no, you don't get to move to our country, make up your own laws, and then expect everybody else to live with them. That's not how that works. But folks, if you think this is something that's going on, over there, somewhere else, back east, no, it's right here with us. It's here in flyover country. They say that as an insult. I just hope everybody from New York and California just keeps on flying. That's why we call it flyover country. But that being said, guys, go down to Houston. We had a guy, you know what a fatwa is? Or an honor killing? Yep, decided his daughter became too westernized, ran her over with a car. And then when the cops show up, oh, no. We're Muslim. I can do that. That's not how this works. Amarillo, we think those Somalis, you think that's that's up there in Minnesota. That's a long ways away. No, it's not. Amarillo, Texas, had a problem up there. We had Catholic Family Services that was bringing them in as fast as they could go. Then the school system begged them to stop, said, we don't have teachers that can teach the language. Okay, they stopped. Lutheran Family Services turned around and picked up the same contract. Well, here's what they didn't know. They brought in two groups of people. One of them used to be slave to the other, and they really weren't putting up with that. So you've got Somali areas over there that are fighting each other, shooting each other all night long. And they don't really care. One of them decided that they were going to elect their own mayor. Still going to take the benefits, not going to submit to your law. This is here. This matters. So if you're going to wait on Congress to do something for you, forget it. You better pay attention to who your DA is and who your sheriff is and make sure that they are willing to enforce the law, because this comes back to local. Thank you.
They can't hear you in the back.
Can you hear me now? Good, good. Sharia law and other foreign laws are incompatible with our laws, with our Constitution, with the laws that we have in this country. For decades, people have tried to bring foreign law into our legal system, our Supreme Court. It has not worked. We need to look to one place, our founding document. That's the Declaration of Independence. First 126 words of the Declaration of Independence, the preamble, tells us one thing: our rights come from God. Number two, the purpose of our government is to protect those rights. Sharia law and many other laws are in contradiction to our liberty, our life, our property ownership, and our pursuit of happiness. Sharia law does not promote happiness. People are not supposed to be happy. They're supposed to be serving Allah. A good reference on Islam is Winston Churchill. I direct you to this quote. I will post it on my Facebook this weekend. It's The River Wars, published in 1898, Volume 2, and he gives a couple of good paragraphs that are very informative. But Sharia law and foreign law are incompatible, and contrary to our Declaration of Independence, contrary to our Constitution, contrary to our laws.
The word you're looking for is assimilate. They're required, when you come to America, you're required to learn to speak English. You're required to assimilate with our society. Now, 50% of this country elected a president that stood before the world and said, we're no longer a Christian nation. That was a lie. I don't mind telling him that. We are a Christian nation. Our values are Christian. Our laws are based out of the Bible. We're a Christian nation. But when you have a president of this country that says, we're no longer a Christian nation, those people start coming in, and they refuse to assimilate. We're going to set up our own laws. We're going to do our own things. Now, this doesn't mean that I'm against illegal or legal immigration. Some of the hardest workers I've ever worked alongside of were illegal immigrants. And they were good people. They came here to work and send their money back to their families. But these are not the people we're getting now. People we're getting now want to sell you drugs, sell your kids drugs. They want to take over your churches, your businesses. If you think it's bad here, last year I was in England, London, Peterborough, Skegness, and I'll tell you, we don't have it as bad as they do yet, but if we don't get control, we will. And they have it really bad.
Short answer, no. There is no room in Texas or the United States for Sharia law. And right now, I know that the biggest defender of the Constitution is the American Evangelical Church. It is the largest grassroots organization in the country. And right now in DC, there are moderate Democrats and establishment Republicans that are so scared of the church rising up, waking up, and taking back control of the government, just like the way our founding fathers programmed it to. And if you think that the threat to democracy with the shutting down of churches is happening overseas, it's happening right here in West Texas. In 2020, we had a mayor by the name of Dan Pope who told churches, if you open up, you will be cited, you will be thrown into law enforcement. And then in 2021, he told our city that pastors could not get involved in the sanctity of life, the protection of sanctity of life. A church coalition came up with 200 pastors. We got the mayor out of his seat, and we won every city council vote to ensure that Lubbock remained safeguarded to the Constitution. And so the biggest threat to, I believe, American and West Texas values is Sharia law, but it's also establishment Republicans that lie on the side of Sharia law and Democrats to shut down the evangelical church. Because I know that when government is limited and the church awakens, we win every single time.
All right. We're going to slowly, I know everybody's getting tired. We're going to let, you're not tired? Oh, okay, well
another
then
2
we'll move
hours.
forward. All right, let's do this. Every Republican says that they will hold federal agencies accountable and reduce waste, fraud, and abuse in Washington. How exactly will you do that?
Well, I think the first thing that we have to do is we have to get rid of Pam Bondi, as she hasn't really done anything. So that's my stance on that. But what I personally would do is we have to go in and do the reviews. I think that the FBI should be completely disseminated all the way down. They have done nothing but go after Americans of the Republican Party for the last 5.5 years, and it's time to bring destruction to a force that went after Americans. My wife and I know firsthand what it's like to be run over whenever you're just standing up for your rights. And so me personally, I want to subpoena a lot of people, not only in regards to January 6th, but in regards to the state's rights and what we have here, and to make sure that we have compliance from federal agencies that are coming in and say, I don't know, kidnapping me from my home without giving the sheriff an extradition order in Lubbock County. Things like that have to be looked at. Things like that have to not only be pressed, but there must be prosecution that comes behind it. And I think that that's something that we should do much, much larger at the state level. But we have to get people into office at the federal level that are going to make prosecutions, make arrests, and send people to prison who violate the rights in the Constitution. That's it. That's the statement. Send them to prison. Give them the old Don Lemon treatment here lately.
We're going to close with the next one.
Repeat the question.
Yes, sir.
Could you repeat the question?
So a lot of Republicans say they'll go to the office and hold federal agencies accountable and reduce waste, fraud, and abuse in Washington. How exactly will you do that?
All right, so I want to show y'all seen my fat mat buckets. This right here has holes drilled all in it. That's what I think our government looks like. We have a whole lot of holes, a lot of stuff that can, no matter what we put in, it's going to leak out. That's a real problem. We have to stop that. And what we call it drain the swamp. We do it now. We do it with who we vote for. You need to look at who it is that you're voting for on every spot. Don't take it for granted that just because you recognize someone that this is going to be the person that's going to go and change what we've been talking about draining. We have to do it, and we have to see now and look at it. Is it in the city council? Is it on our school boards? Where is it? Where does it start? Where does it end? We've got to drain the swamp, expose corruption, and be done with this craziness. You have another Learning Center for me? Like, yo, this is absurd. And yet it's happening. They're saying that it's going to be even more exposed. How are we not like burnt up? We are. I don't want to see my kids left with more of a mess than what we have. I'm running to drain the swamp. I'm not just saying it. I'm not an insider or career politician.
So first off, we're actually going to have to look and see where the money's actually getting spent if you want to start putting a stop to this nonsense. So like I said, let's take those 84,000 IRS agents and have them start auditing where the money is actually getting spent. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, how are you going to get Congress to do that? Guys, you're going to have to be willing to, we're going to have to be willing to pull the ripcord on them. And if we got to shut the government down, that's fine. Hey, look, I want the following things audited. Otherwise, I'm sorry, I can't vote for a continuing spending bill. I'm not going to vote to raise a debt ceiling. So until these things are audited, until we know where this money went, that's all you've got, okay? If you're an individual congressman, when you get up there, remember, we've got separation of powers. Some of these fall into the executive branch. We can't just walk in there and, like you said, tell Pam Bondi what to do and expect anything to get done. Neither can Trump. That's strange. Anyways, that being said, that's it. That's all a congressman's really going to be able to do is go ahead, stop the spending, shut down your government, and say, hey, we want the following things audited. When they get done with the audit, then we can talk about opening it back up again. Now, when we're going to do that, go ahead, don't just jump up and do it, make a couple of changes. One, continue to pay your servicemen. They need to get their money. They need to get paid for their service. Number two, your retirees, everybody on welfare, Social Security. Everybody on Social Security and Medicare, they earned that. That's their money. They need to be given to them. Government never should have took it in the first place. Those two things need to be getting paid. We're not going to hold our military people hostage as well as our elderly. Thank you.
We have two problems. We have bureaucracy embedded in the Washington swamp, and we have a government printing press. And the states have very cleverly moved all of their obligations of health care and welfare and education over to the federal government. And the government, of course, puts bureaucracy on top of that, and then you get inefficiency. Prime example is veterans' health care centers. I've been involved in 9 of them as a surgeon. I apologize, I keep bringing that down. I think my voice is too loud. But in any case, I've been at 9 VA medical centers. You have a medical center where you have 1,000 employees and they see 100 outpatients a day. That's not efficiency. That's not a good use of our money. We need to get the swamp drained down. We need to get people to serve in our government because they want to be servants, not because they want to become rich, not because they want to become famous, not because they want to become powerful. We look at our road construction. Many of our roads are rebuilt about every 10 or 15 years. And you look out there and there's one guy with a shovel and there's 15 guys watching him. How do we get that efficiency back? How do we get our people back to realizing we need a government that protects us? As the old preacher once told me, the government is a watchdog to be fed and not a cow to be milked.
We've all witnessed what's going on in Minnesota. It's awful. We've seen what DOGE did to USAID and saw the billions of dollars they were sending overseas instead of taking care of our citizens. Then it happens in Minnesota, and a lot of that money went overseas to Somalia. You probably didn't know that the governor of a red state, Indiana, Governor Braun, just audited Medicare and Medicaid in his state and found $1.4 billion worth of fraud in a red state. On my flyer it says cut spending. This is what I mean. When you want to cut spending, you have to look within. And the problem is government oversight. Our Congress is not doing their job. They're supposed to have oversight over all of these programs. Remember, power of the purse. They like to tell you, this is us. We have the power here. But they're not looking. If you know, every branch of the military, every budget in every branch of the military, they have to spend every penny by the end of that fiscal year or the government cuts the money. And so they do. I've witnessed it right here in this town with my own eyes. They come and buy stuff they don't need so that they'll get the same amount next year or more. It's time for oversight on all these programs, not just the stuff that we send to Minnesota and the states, but in our military as well. We can save billions of dollars just with oversight.
In 2016, we were all excited to drain the swamp with President Trump. And he gets there and he realizes that the political appointees that went in there were pretty much on the America First side. But the career government employees had made themselves undrainable, mainly through decades of the lobbying and consulting class. So the biggest threat to draining the swamp is quite honestly the system at play that has made some of those government career employees undrainable. I disagree a little bit in the sense of there's really not much on the federal side that you can do. President Trump has shown that we need to use and expand the Regulatory Flexibility Act to ensure that small businesses are protected by big government overreach. Some of the biggest offenders of that is the EPA, OSHA, and even the Department of Labor. So it's important to use the Congressional Review Act as a member of Congress to ensure that you are cutting off funding for government agencies that are abusing their authority over the American people?
This is a great question addressing waste, fraud, and abuse, and I believe there is much we can do and that we must do. And the short answer is Congress must do its job. It's the US Congress and the House in particular that has the Article 1 authority. It's the power of the purse that Mr. Barbee mentioned, and is the oversight responsibility that is incumbent upon that authority, that enumerated authority to the US Congress. So look, the key is we've got to elect a congressman who will go in there and do the hard work. Frankly, there are too many performance artists in Washington, D.C. who are looking for likes and viral moments, but not doing their real work. There are too many just bomb throwers who want to get attention. We need people who go in and dig into the nuts and bolts of these programs to actually reduce spending because we've got to get our nation's budget deficit back under control. We annually take in about $4.5 trillion in tax revenue. We're spending well over 6.5. And we've got to narrow that. It's been done before. I first went to Washington, D.C. when Newt Gingrich brought in the Contract with America. By 2001, we had a balanced budget because Congress did do its job of critical oversight and responsibility. And the committees in Congress did their jobs individually. This is a model that we have to rework now as we continue to have pro-growth policies that are going to grow the economy. I believe we can get our budget back into balance. And I'm going to support a balanced budget amendment to get there because we cannot pass this debt on to the next generation.
Hold on to it. All right. So this is going to be the last one. And so basically on this one, we're going to do 90 seconds still. There is one thing that has not been addressed that I think you can address probably in this one. Sorry, this isn't probably as much for Matt. But now that we're in Abilene, everybody's asking about an office in Abilene for us to reach a representative. And so I would address that somewhere maybe in your question, but I'm hearing a lot of that. But basically, this is it. So tell us what you want to hear, what we need to hear as you go out. You have 90 seconds to say whatever you would like. We haven't talked about abortion. We hadn't talked about immigration as much. We hadn't got a lot of subjects because we have so many people. But if you feel like there's something that is strong in your platform and you want to talk about it and kind of close out, you have 90 seconds to do that.
You ready? All right. Well, I'll address one of those. Abortion's murder. I'll never vote for anything that goes for that. So, if you don't remember, my name's Ryan Zink. Some people say I'm a little brass, but I'm a fed up American. I spent 5 years being tortured, drugged through the system as a normal individual, a business owner, a loving husband and father that was stripped away from my constitutional rights and taken. And that very thing can happen to you. If you're looking for a fighter who stands on the principles of the Bible, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights, the things that we need, along with the Declaration of Independence, and so many other key documents are what make America great, then you vote for me. I've never taken a dime from lobbyist money. I want to be in the district. Now, putting an office here, I think that's a great idea, but I was thinking a little broader because I was thinking about getting like an RV so I could travel across the district and stay a couple days in each county to address the real issues that are coming across. That's just kind of my personality, seeing that go out. I want to fight for you. I want to fight for this district, and I want to make sure that you guys never have to feel the pain that I have felt for 5 years, being tortured, looking out the window into a cemetery at 130 pounds after being poisoned, wondering if I was going to live. And the only voice that spoke to me during that time, because no elected official stood up, was God's word. And this is what I want to spread across America. Thank y'all for your time tonight. I appreciate y'all.
Can I have a little longer? No, I'm kidding. All right, so as a husband of 22 years, 5 kids, we're going through the adoption process for a 6th. I see the value of life as much more than most people would think. Not only that, but I also volunteered at a pregnancy center. I want y'all to see some of the size of these little babies. And whenever you look at this, Whenever you see these little babies, y'all, at just a few days old, they already have fingers. Like, this is crazy to think that this is not a human. I quoted it earlier in 2 Corinthians. We have to humble ourselves. We have to pray, turn from our wicked ways. We have a real problem in our land. We have a lot of babies that are being killed. This is a problem. It's time that we turn from that, and it's time for revival in our government, and we have to have our land healed. This is a problem whenever people don't see this as a life. Y'all, some people say that I am too Christian. I would point them to the man that I follow. That man went and saw corruption. He saw it, he didn't flip out. He went and made a whip. Then he came back and flipped tables and drove them out with that whip. Was Jesus Christ too Christian? We've got to cut the red tape, expose the corruption, secure our borders, deliver the results. Oh man, Saturday, Potosi Live 6. Love you too, bud.
Folks, my name is Jason Corley, and I want to be your next congressman. I've served as a county commissioner for the last 8 years in Lubbock County, and in that time, I'm proud to say that Lubbock County is the largest county so far to pass the abortion travel ban. If your county hasn't done so, talk with your county commissioners about that. But anyways, Project Destiny is a pro-life group there in my hometown. They didn't have to picket. They didn't have to get signs. They didn't have to go out there and beg and plead a bunch of elected officials. I was told about it over lunch. Said, no problem. We'll have it on the next agenda. That's what we need is people who listen in Congress, people who step up there. And I'll be honest with you, man, I have had more fights than I can count as county commissioner. But you know what? It was always the right fight for the right things. So I can tell you this much about my faith. God picks different men to do different things. God picks men to speak to the people from the pulpit. God also sends men to speak from podiums. I'm not the guy that God's going to send to build a temple. I'm the guy he sends to kill Philistines. And you know what? That's what I've had to do politically for the last 8 years. And that's what I expect Congress to be. It's not going to be any different. But I can promise you this, I will always listen. You'll all have my cell phone number. If you take one of my cards back there, my cell phone number is written on there where you can call me directly and ask me any questions you want to have. It's 806-577-9778. Also, you can go to the website. It's jasoncorley4texas.com. Thank you.
I'll take on your first question. First, Congressman needs to have offices in the primary population centers. That's Lubbock, Abilene, and Big Spring. And the congressman needs to get around the district and talk with the people because the congressman represents the people in Washington. Second, I want to touch on abortion. I served 4 terms on the Lubbock Board of Health. I didn't ask to be there. I was told I was going to be there to confront Donna Bakke and others who were running Planned Parenthood. In those 4 terms, we shut down Planned Parenthood in Lubbock. We need in Congress, thank you, we need in Congress to address the important issue. The Democrats and others have put this, when does life begin, up. And they're saying, well, life really doesn't begin for the baby until the baby's born or until the baby's 2 weeks old or 2 years old. And there are people who are willing to kill infants who are up to 1 or 2 years old. We need in Congress to codify and to put into an amendment, when does personhood begin? Personhood should begin with conception and end with natural death. And until that happens, the unborn, the disabled like Terry Schiavo, and the elderly who have their feeding tubes routinely pulled and are allowed to starve to death and dehydrate to death are in danger. We need to codify when people are persons and protected by our law.
Well, I'm James Bob Barbee. I'm I'm a conservative Christian, I'm a constitutionalist, and Roe v. Wade was never legal. Abortion was never legal. The Supreme Court can't make law. They're only supposed to interpret what our legislative branch makes and our executive branch signs. So abortion should have never happened. Roe v. Wade was a travesty that we all lived through. But then, when we finally get a president that's going to stand up, a Congress that's going to do something, what do? They don't make a decision in D.C. like they always do. They punt the problems to the states. Let's turn it over to the state and let them handle it. So we still have this going on because we have these blue states with all these liberal people who think it's okay to kill our children. It's time for Congress to act and put a stop to abortions. Now, I think you're here because you're all voters. And I think you're looking for honesty and integrity. You want somebody that will stand by his word. And for that reason, I haven't asked for or accepted a single donation. I'm paying for all this campaign myself because I believe the money should stay in your pockets and not ours. Thank you.
Well, Abilene, I want to end by saying thank you. Thank you because for 4 years of my life, you opened your arms and you taught me about community when I was finishing my degree at Abilene Christian University. It was here that I learned that you should love your neighbor so much that you should be bold enough to share the truth that our community was founded on Judeo-Christian values. I have always been on the side of conservative values since day one. It's the reason why Governor Greg Abbott endorsed me, saying since day one, I've been on securing the border. It's the reason why Turning Point Action, the largest, most influential grassroots organization in the country, has endorsed me. It's the reason why CPAC, the organization that President Ronald Reagan used to announce his presidency, has endorsed me. It's the reason why Project Destiny, the most influential local organization protecting life, has endorsed me. And I'm here alive today because of the Valleys of West Texas. Because 31 years ago, a 15-year-old girl found out she was with child, and her guidance counselor pushed her to go to a Planned Parenthood clinic. And because she had community like this, today I'm alive. And I want to thank my mom because that physician that told you what you were carrying was a mistake is now here running for Congress to ensure that we build a society worthy of the next generation to live. But let me tell you what I'm excited about. Every morning, a handful of students get to our office because all across this district, we have 200 young adult students volunteering for this campaign. I don't think I've seen a generational greatness like we have with this campaign. Thank you all.
I also want to thank the good people of Taylor County, Texas, for coming out today. This crowd has been exceptional. This is what we are supposed to do as Americans. I want to represent this great, vast, highly productive district, the 19th District of Texas, in the U.S. Congress. And that's from the high plains down here into the big country. The spirit that we have as West Texas is exactly what is needed in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. needs more West Texas. Look, my campaign is really, you can break it into two things. It's trying to support President Trump in the Make America Great Again initiative, right? This speaks to the values that we hold dear in West Texas. It is the values of pro-life. It is our biblical worldview. It is standing strong on those principles, on all the policies as they come down the pike, right? We need people who are going to make strong, principled, experienced, credible stands on these issues that confront us as a nation. The second is the America First agenda. Look, what we produce in West Texas blesses this nation and this world every single day. Our agriculture, and we have to stand by our farmers. Man, it's our energy production. We have to stand by all the above American energy policy that blesses this world every day. We have to stand by those critical industries that are so important to rural America: healthcare, transportation infrastructure. I'm Tom Sell, and I'm asking for your vote. Thank you again.
Well, we're fixing to go to a time where we can go visit with each candidate. As you're going to do that, we have a table back there for Taylor County Republican Party. On that table, there's a place to sign up to be a part of our newsletter and to get a lot of our activities. There's also a sign-up sheet there. A lot of people call us and want to serve on elections, and we kind of forward them to judges and try to appoint stuff and like that. It's a bigger deal. But if you'd like to serve in an election, you can write their name down there, and we'll reach out to you to talk to you about what that looks like and how to do that. And then we're working towards our precinct convention. We haven't locked that date yet, but our precinct convention, our county convention, we've held it here the last several times, I think. But we'll be doing that shortly, and you can find that on our calendar within probably the next week or so. So on that date. So we'd love for you to be a part of that. Our precinct convention is really neat. That's where resolutions come forward to get started in precinct, to go to county, to go to state. And so that's a pretty big deal on where these ideas come from for the Republican platform. Sound good? All right. So that being said, we appreciate, gentlemen, that you came down here. Thank you for traveling. Would you give them a round of applause?